if you do not want to be recorded, we're recording the meeting, and you can either not say anything, or you would want to not be at the meeting. That's the gist of it.
Right, and this is the January meeting of the CCR Residents Association. I'm going to skip with the particulars because I think Justin and Kevin know that we're the registered community organization, and we'll leave it at that. So for everyone knows, this is a project we heard last week. We gave some advice. They went back, they redesigned, and I'll let Kevin present.
Justin, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, I'll take the lead on that one at the moment. So thank you again for seeing me. I hope everyone had a healthy and safe New Year, and for accommodating us tonight. I know that there's, I guess, a smaller turnout than was at the last meeting, but I know that at the last meeting we notified people that we would revisit this matter. We've taken the comments to heart. And I don't want it to seem as though we didn't, although my client has elected not to necessarily take some of the advice. Some of it we have done. Our proposal, and I'll share the screen in a moment, mainly focused around, the original proposal was for 8 units in this property at 327 South 16th Street, located between Pine and Spruce, really between Pine and Delancey, that cuts through a little bit. And there is this proposed addition to the property that the board had advised or recommended that not be done to the rear of the property on the 2nd and 3rd floor. My client did spend a significant amount of time speaking with the immediate neighbor, Avi, whom I don't see on this call now, but we have communicated with him. And made accommodations to him such that one of his concerns was privacy of it. So we've made certain concessions to him, ensuring that the design would involve frosted glass and other methods of privacy to keep his 2nd floor deck the way he would like it. And again, we've tried to address his immediate concerns. Not that they're the only concerns that need to be addressed, but those concerns about having several neighbors in a neighboring unit and the current condition of the property. I'm not going to rehash everything because we kind of did that already with my client being in the neighborhood and developing several things and whatnot, and their conscientiousness over historic. But what we did was we've redesigned the plans and we did go with less density. We've converted 2 of the studios into a 1-bedroom unit. Bringing this down to a 7-unit property, which is more along the lines of several of the other properties in the Rittenhouse area, and about 4 or 5 other properties on the block that we've looked at that have about 7 units, even with smaller footprints and smaller square footage than what we're developing. In looking at doing different designs, and this is where I'll turn it over to Kevin in a moment, but let me share my screen if that's okay. So I need to, if the host, Sam, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, Janice, thank you.
Hold on.
We're good.
Okay.
Okay, so as well, just to review it a little bit, I guess we're not allowed to have this many units in this district. So that was our refusal. Generally speaking, it's this addition that this is a by right addition, but nevertheless is of concern. And, so we attempted to address it, but it doesn't seem as though it's the alternatives are quite feasible. One of the alternative proposals was, as discussed, is to build out this 4th floor. But that is, again, that just does not work from a standpoint of egress and fire. And Kevin can act more on that in a moment. And just to, again, sorry to go through the presentation again, but just showing you where we are situated here geographically. Front facade. And so this is really the most important from what we've been able to modify. We took these 2 front unit studio apartments. That might be hard for some to see if the pictures are in the way, but units 1 and 3 on the lower level ground floor, and we have converted them into single unit to instead of 2 studios, down to 1 bedroom to take down some of that density. again, we did have some letters of support from near neighbors. We do believe, and my client is still going to continue to canvass, but we're really seeking support of the board, of the committee here. Let me turn it over to Kevin for a sec to explain a little bit more why this other option of increasing square footage does not work.
Yes. So during the design phase, we did look at building out the fourth story originally, and the challenge with doing that is once we start occupying the fourth floor, we get into two means of egress, and two means of egress in a footprint like this is really just a challenge. Really impacts the usable footprint, the layouts. So we kind of shied away from that at the outset and ended up pursuing the addition at the rear of the property in place to gain kind of some additional square footage for the proposed use.
Kevin, let me just address something directly.
Mhm.
Did you look at, so you have a bi-level unit in the front. So if you did a bi-level unit in the back, utilizing part of the fourth floor with the entrance on the third floor, wouldn't that negate the need for a second means of egress?
My understanding is, again, we haven't gone through the permitting phase yet, but my understanding, we're treating that front unit as mezzanine. And we're taking the conservative approach that the mezzanine is a kind of a third of the footprint of the fourth floor. You could probably get into some games in terms of how you'd like to play that card if you did it by unit. But my understanding is that the city is getting more stringent on that exception entirely. And we may even need to eliminate that kind of that space entirely and treat it as storage and mechanical.
Okay.
So again, I mean, with that said, I mean, I don't know that there are many other questions for Kevin, but please ask. I know that Kevin was tasked with, as was I from a legal standpoint, but Kevin from a design standpoint to see what these other options were. This is something that the client is just, and again, I apologize for his absence today, but he's very, very much in desiring to put this addition on for whatever reason his feel that the structure would benefit from it and so forth. And that's why he really, did try to attempt to work with the near neighbor. Obviously, the concerns of the RCO, if there was a different method for us that he felt was feasible, I think he would have gone with it. I think he would love to accommodate in many other ways. And again, in bringing down the unit, again, it may not seem like the most giving of the give and take, but he did want to make some form of gesture and said to me, look, let's just see what we can do in terms of density. So we would like, we would appreciate, I should say, the support of the committee of the RCO with this application. And I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I think that's where we're at.
Okay. One more thing I just want to ask Kevin
Sure.
before I turn it over to the committee to ask questions. So how many units by right could you get in the property?
I'd have to look over my notes, but I believe we're at 4. I don't recall off the top of my
Looking
head.
at the refusal, and it just requires some math. So you're refused for number of units. So it looks like you were supposed 360 square feet for the first and 480.
Yep.
After that,
I forget what the lot area is.
if you can just figure out where that puts us.
Yes.
The existing lot area is 1788 and a half on the refusal. And I Kevin, when you're calculating that, and I know we talked about it, but I'll let you do the math. Calculating that should be considering the addition, being built, because that would be square footage that the client intends to add. So the by right would be based on the square footage with those.
Right. That's what I want to know. I want
Right.
to give you a fair shake and just have that for our discussion.
Mhm.
Sure.
So we're at 2.9 units, so I think we have to round down, so technically we're at 3. Because we're at 1 for the 360, and then the balance is 2.9 units, so we'd be at 3 technically. Even though we're at 2.975, I believe I believe you have to round down.
Okay. Okay, let's go through. I'll just run through my list here. Doug, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Ben?
No.
Veronica?
No.
My list keeps changing order. I'm sorry. Bob?
No questions.
Evan? Any questions, Evan? You there? Michelle, any questions? Michelle? No, okay. Robin?
No questions.
Okay. Did I ask? Sorry, my list is jumping here. I should have written it down. Veronica, I asked you, correct?
You did.
Okay. Wade, and then Janice.
No questions.
Janice?
I'm going to make it unanimous. No questions.
Okay. Then thank you for this. Now we're going to go into closed session, and we'll let you know what our decision is. Ben will be sending out a decision letter when we're done.
Very good.
you
Again,
very
thank
much.
you for your time. Appreciate you hosting us again.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.